Chapter 21. It didn't take long for us to settle into a routine. Yuchevik was always up before me chopping wood. On the days we had a break from the village, we escaped to the jungle, and I learned to swing through the trees using vines. On one of these adventures, Yuchevik stopped suddenly. I watch her climb the vine to the canopy, trying my best to catch up. She stands above the leaves, gazing at the horizon. I take in the marvel myself for a moment. Yuchevik breaks the silence, stating how she always wanted to climb to the top of the mountain in the distance. They were massive and rivaled the sky for their place in the sunset. Neither of us knew how far of a journey it was going to be. No one in the village had ever been past the forest. The chief also stated he could not allow anyone else to go with us. Without me, they would go back to living in constant fear. Yuchevik had already made up her mind, and she was going with or without me. Unavoidable. She would have done something like this eventually, and I couldn't blame her at all for feeling cooped up. It took us a week to pack enough food, water, and tools. I was begged not to leave by a few people on the way out. With my exoskeleton, it wasn't so bad. Hopefully my matter control can handle whatever we come across. It took us a few hours to cross a forest headed northwest. We took a break to survey the land ahead of us, barren and dry, trees sparse and brush nowhere in sight, the ground a mixture of dirt and sand. I help Yuchevik to her feet and pick up our things. We step out of the forest and feel the soil harden with every step. The temperature soars within minutes. We have to stop and take off our clothing. Sweat drips off our bodies as we walk the rest of the day. The mountains in the background are taunting us with every stride. I did notice the soil turned more dirt as we walked. Also, we had a tail on us. Yuchevik noticed the animal first, some kind of cat with reptilian skin. Tail is thin and elongated. It stalks us a few hundred yards away. We stop at the nearest tree for the night. Fire might keep the creature away. We pitch the tent, collect some rocks, and start the fire. Yuchevik takes care of the cooking while I stand guard. We eat in peace and slip away to the tent for the night. The ground is frozen when I awake. Yuchevik is snoring and the sun is still not up yet. My body screams in pain as I wheel it out of the tent. The campfire smoke visible in the cold air. I warm my mug of water in the coals. I wait for Yuchevik to be ready. We pack and begin the journey again. It took most of the day getting out of the savannah, and we were running low on water, sharing the last container. Food will last another couple of days. Explaining this to Yuchevik made the situation a little worse. She wants to press on to the top and turn back around. I know better than to think we can do this in a few short days. In the end, I convinced her to help get the water situation settled for now. We set up camp again after the rocks began supporting vegetation. The elevation from here was like the countryside in the northern highlands. From here on out, the trip could be fatal. Chapter 22. I was the first to awake with dry lips. The fire tries its best to warm the air rushing past, but it's enough to boil water for breakfast. I wake Yuchevik, and we eat in silence. I watch her put on another layer of clothing rather than taking one off for the first time. I can feel her glare at me, even though I look toward our destination. She's got everything packed up in a few minutes, and takes the lead. We begin the walk as the gradient increases by the minute. Yuchevik finds a small stream for us to fill up on water. I follow for her for a few hours more. She finally stops after the first peak we get to. The mountain refuses to give any space to the sky. The tallest mountain was easy to find. It had the steepest incline out of everything else in the area. We would have to scale it like a snake climbing a tree, wrapping around the edge, climbing slowly toward the top. Yuchevik finds an overhang for us to hide in through the night. She doesn't hide the fact that she's cold anymore. We shiver around the small fire as the wind pelts us. Then it smacks against the tent for the rest of the night. I let her take her time getting up this morning. We absorbed the remaining warmth from the rock where the fire was before moving on. I could see it in her eyes now, questioning herself for the first time since the start of our journey. The snow is blowing into our eyes while we walk. Yuchevik has learned to follow my pace. We run out of space to walk just before lunch. It was now time to scale a sheer wall of surface of rock. There was no way to see the top of the mountain, any ledges or vegetation. I took a moment to breathe, and Yuchevik took out the ice picks without hesitation to begin climbing. I gathered my nerves and joined her. 10 minutes go by, then 15. There was no ledge in sight. Yuchevik wants to rest for a minute. but I talk her out of it and continue to climb. She finds a small ledge a minute later and helps me onto it, the wind drowning out our breathing. Yuchevik walks towards the ice on the ground that's formed a small pocket. I lay half on the rock and half on the ice. Could fall asleep at the moment. I feel the ice shift under her weight as she moves behind me. We feel it at the same time. The ice gives under Yuchevik's feet. I fall headfirst into darkness. Terror enters my blood. Mind fills with dread. We were falling for nearly a minute. Yuchevik shrieks every few seconds. I don't remember the fall stopping. My eyes open with the feeling of utter strain and discomfort. I could barely concentrate on vision with the amount of pain. I could only make out her shape before passing out again. Pain was the first thing my mind became aware of upon awakening. The white light on my eyelids was the second. My arm almost refuses to move, but I managed to cover my eyes with my right hand. I opened them slowly to the sight of a man-made ceiling. The white fluorescent light like a hospital blinds me. Was I back on the spaceship? I waited for my eyes to adjust before looking around. I was on a hospital bed, and the room was small. A wheelchair next to the bed, and the wall ahead of me filled with monitors. It took a minute for my vision to clear completely. I stare at the monitors before realizing the sinister truth. They were live feeds of the village, Yuchevik's old house, and the mountain. It was unnerving. The door to my right is swung open as a man walks through the door. He's tall and lanky, wearing a lab coat, thick glasses, and a watch. He approaches me slowly while speaking. "Good, you're awake. You were out for quite some time, Blaine." I stare at the man for a moment. He doesn't have any pins from the mothership. "Where am I?" My throat barely lets me get the words out. The expression of anger fills my face. The doctor notices. "Not to worry, Mr. Morrison. You're not on the ship at the moment. You were trying to climb the mountain, weren't you?" He pauses for a moment. "My name is Dr. Swan. Very lucky you stumbled across my lab." He looks at the floor a brief moment. "You arrived here in much the same way I did." I watch as the man walks over to the screens on the wall. His back is turned to me at the moment. The only thing I can think about is, Yuchevik. That's what her name is, right? The doctor still faces the monitors. His words pull me back into the present. I feel a rage building inside of me. "She is alive, if you were wondering. You can see her on the monitor right here." I look at the screen the man points towards. Yuchevik is suspended in the air by her limbs, various tubes and needles connected to her. I want to leap from this bed, but my body won't cooperate. It takes all the strength I have just to keep my head off the pillow. "You'll be able to see her in time, but for now, rest is what your body needs. You were out for nearly a week." He finally turns to face me, a blank stare, observing me before leaving the room. Chapter 23. When I awoke next, I searched the room for a clock. None here. No idea what the time was or how long I'd been there. My body still will not let me move more than a few inches. The door to my right opens, this time to the sight of a robot carrying breakfast. It departs the table over me and leaves the room. Fresh apple slices, bacon, and toast, even milk to drink. The meal was done within minutes, and the robot came to collect the table. Yuchevik was still unconscious on the monitor. The villagers were still behaving normally. I tried to force myself out of bed without luck. I was all but panting like a dog when the doctor came in. He walks over to the wheelchair before making eye contact. "I know you want to help her, Blaine. Truth is, I do too." The doctor takes a step back. "She lost a lot of blood before I found the two of you. I figured she protected you from the direct impact, from the way the scans looked." He turns to face the monitors. "It's really a mystery why she would go through the trouble of saving you. Twice, that is." I could see the smile creep across the side of his face. "I do need your help, Blaine. If you do want her to live, that is." He pauses a moment. "There is a flower at the top of the mountain, the only place it grows on the planet. I know because I placed it there." It suddenly clicks. Dr. Swan from the mothership is standing right in front of me. The man responsible for the genetically engineered animals on the planet. The father of the Bishnooks. "Her organs are going to fail, Mr. Morrison. You should eat as much as you can and rest." He stares at me while leaving the room. 3 days. That's what I'd give myself. The last 2 days were spent getting in and out of the wheelchair. I was nowhere near 100%, but I was out of time. The doctor shows me to the front door. I still lay where Yuchevik and I fell. The exit to the mountain was blocked off. Climbing begins here. The exosuit makes the climb easy, but much more dangerous. It took me an hour of climbing with the ice picks before the first resting spot. Another 3 walking. The wind was slight, even this high in altitude. The peak was now in sight. My body fights every step. Ice formed on my beard and eyelashes. After another couple of hours, I reached the last few paces. An oddly flat surface for a peak, and snow covers every inch. The view is beyond words. Jungle trees in the distance are hard to even make out. The pyramids are like small shapes on the horizon. I turn back to the snow, now searching for a flower the same color. I brush the snow off carefully, exposing the ice on top of the ground. I find a rock the size of a bowling ball. Brushing it off, I find the flower sitting right next to it. Its petals are fluffy like leaves that look like cotton. Its stem is a vibrant green, like a highlighter. I pluck the stem from the ground carefully and sink to the floor. My breathing was slow and drawn out. It was time to get back to the lab, slipping my way down the same path. It felt like a breeze getting back to the wall I'd now have to climb back down. Just 2 hours back while the wind tried to knock me off its territory. Already the ice picks in my arms. I set my feet first, then the picks. The left one finds its mark in the ice. Right one can't seem to find a good place. The wind behind me shoots toward the sky, flinging me from the edge slightly. I finally set the right pick and begin the slow journey to the floor. I was about halfway when the wind became a problem. The ice was beginning to melt under me, and I was being tossed around. I went to set the right pick in when the left one started to slide. I panic and shove the right pick into the wall. Sparks light up the rock as I slide in a free fall a few seconds. The right pick nestles itself into a crack in the rock as my body weight slams itself onto my shoulder. I nearly pulled the arm out of its socket. My hand loses its grip, and I fall back into the darkness. Chapter 24. The white light envelops my eyelids before they even open. I was back in the hospital bed, same as the last time. Pain radiates in my head, down my entire nervous system, agonizingly sharp. "You managed to save her. I'm impressed." Dr. Swan walks into frame as my vision clears. "She made a full recovery. Even woke up a few days ago." He motions to the monitors. Yuchevik is standing completely still in the middle of a forest. I don't recognize where she is. The trees are aspen, and I never saw them on our adventures. My heart sinks to my stomach. "I had her placed in an isolated room, made a projection of her natural habitat with a hologram. She's just downstairs, Mr. Worson, no need to worry." The doctor looks back at me. "You can visit her in a few days when your body's ready to move again. The flower was a powerful coagulant, but I didn't have enough to make another injection." With his last word, the doctor takes his first steps toward the door. He leaves me again. I watch Yuchevik from the monitor for a few hours. She sits on a rock, tearing leaves the entire time. I can see her shadow, her hair blowing in the wind. My eyes get heavier as the hours pass, and I fall asleep. The next few days were much the same. A robot would serve me food. The hospital bed turned into a toilet. It was odd having a fillet and baked potato, fresh orange juice, and air conditioning. Around the 5th day, the wheelchair lit up green. I'd lowered myself in and out of it the past 2 days, but it wouldn't move. I got into it after breakfast this morning. It takes me into the main hallway and stops at a window. Yuchevik sits on the same rock. Her expression is blank, staring off into space. I doubt she'd be able to hear or see me. The wheelchair has a screen on the right armrest. Icons like a burger, a cross, trees, and a desk appear. I press the burger icon, and the wheelchair turns me around to face the door behind me. It opens seamlessly as the wheelchair enters. There's a counter at the far wall, machines and cooking vessels operated by automatic robotic arms. I check the cross room, which is the room I stay in. The tree takes me to the window where I can see Yuchevik. I assume the desk will take me to the doctor. I don't see the doctor for the next few days. The robots take food to his door while I watch Yuchevik. My strength is returning slowly. I can almost stand next to the wheelchair myself. The doctor comes to check on me after breakfast. He hadn't come out of his room for a week. Says that we will be able to leave in a few days when the weather clears. I watch the monitors on the mountain and the villagers to pass the time. Yuchevik doesn't seem to do much besides lay on the ground and eat fruits. It was reassurance enough to know she was all right. When the storm cleared, I noticed a new icon appear on the wheelchair screen, a door icon that I press as the chair whirs into action. It takes me over to the window where the doctor stands waiting. I'm going to let you into the holographic room now. There will be a cave on the opposite side of the room where the doors will allow you to exit my lab. I leave the wheelchair at the door, which is hidden within the wall. I can't see Yuchevik as I stumble from tree to tree, stop for a moment to catch my breath. A hand lands on my left shoulder with a heaviness unlike that of a human. I turn slowly to see the creature taller than myself, with strikingly human characteristics. Much, much more hair, though. He steps back to let me observe him for a moment. "You must be Blaine," the creature says. I nearly fall over in my confusion. "Yuchevik hasn't stopped talking about you." He says this in English with a slight chuckle at the end. "She's a few feet out still. I'll let you two catch up." I watch as he turns to walk away. I catch myself on a trunk just a few feet from where she sits on the rock. Yuchevik finally notices me and jolts in my direction. I let her take my entire body in her arms and wince in pain. She takes a few minutes to freak out before she can talk slowly enough. She tells me that it's only been a week and a half since she's been awake. The creature I just met was her father, who she hadn't seen in 10 years. He makes his appearance and sits next to us. I let the two of them say their goodbyes after explaining my side of the situation. Yuchevik could hardly hide her emotions hearing that I fell a second time. Natukla, Yuchevik's father, watches us vanish into thin air as we enter the hallway. Sterile white and fluorescent lights lead us out to the entryway, with gear and rations and bags. Yuchevik has a stray tear running down her cheeks as we load up. Chapter 25. It took us another week to get back to the village. Descent from the mountain took us the rest of the day. Slept on the edges of the savannah. Yuchevik finally lost her fast pace when we got back into the forest. She would hardly speak to me. I knew she would need time to process her emotions, but I didn't know how to help. Even when we got to the village, Yuchevik went straight home. I sat around the fire that night talking to the chief and shaman. They gave minimal impressions as usual, but did suggest the elder woman could talk to Yuchevik. It might be a good idea in the next couple days. Yuchevik spent most of her time inside, like a surrendered dog at the pound who didn't know why she was left there. I tried to console her, feed her, and make her laugh. Recommended we take a stroll over to the orangutans. Nothing I did was helping in the slightest. I was growing restless in the few short days we'd been back. The elder woman came to talk with Yuchevik tonight. I thanked her for their generosity with some orangutan juice. I finally got her to have lunch with us today. The dark circles under her eyes are almost purple. She's gotten weak from lack of calories. The elder woman made Yuchevik's favorite for her. I watched her eat normally for once. I smiled at her, but I don't think she noticed. We walked back to the house when Yuchevik heard a commotion near the back door. She glances at me before releasing my hand and rounds the corner. It takes me a second to get around like she did. When she's back on my vision, she's on the ground. I dash, sliding a couple inches, to the sight of her clutching a mass of fur. Blood pools on the dirt and on Yuchevik's hands. Tears well in her eyes when it clicks. This is her father. The chief and elder woman sit in my kitchen with me while Yuchevik screams in agony on the ground. There will be a ceremony for him in the morning if I can get Yuchevik to sleep inside. I peek out the back door after the elders leave to check on her. She yells at me, and I close the door in shock. Since I won't be sleeping anytime soon, I sit down at my desk. The monitor flashes on as a window appears like a pop-up. It's a live video feed from the doctor's laboratory. The moment Natukla found the one real rock in his holographic room. I used it to keep the door open behind me, and then killed the doctor. The scene was vivid. Blood splattered the white walls. The feed ends with Natukla limping out of the main door, clutching his rib cage. It took him only 4 days to get here, with major injuries. Yuchevik must have slipped back inside after I fell asleep. Dried blood coats her arms, and her disheveled hair makes me question how she can breathe through it. I get up and check the back door. The warriors had already taken the body this morning. I spend the day helping Yuchevik get something to eat, brushing her hair and consoling her. The elder woman comes by to gather us for the ceremony just before lunch. Natukla bodies lays on a bed of logs covered with flowers. Yuchevik takes a torch from the shaman and lights the fire while letting the tears fall. The villagers sing and dance in a circle, and food is passed around. Each villager comes to check on Yuchevik and offers their condolences. I could tell by the look on her face she needed the ceremony. It helped her finally see that she needed to grieve, that this entire village would be there for her. She got to see her father one last time. Chapter 26. In the following days, Yuchevik kept mostly to herself. She would eventually come out for dinner and sit next to me at the fire. A small group of mothers took her in, helped her keep her mind in the present. I've been helping the warriors lately. Strangely enough, there was ample prey running right past us on every hunt. The village hadn't seen prosperity like this ever. It helped Yuchevik get back to her normal self. Balancing 2 bowls in my hands, I approached the house and noticed a blood trail leading to the back door. I set the bowls aside and followed the trail to find a snow-white wolf laying on the dirt. Dried blood coats its fur as it struggles to breathe. Yuchevik spots me from the window in the door and looks at the wolf just feet in front of me. Her eyes widen as she waves her hands frantically. The wolf throws his head back to look at me. He gives out a whine and flops back down. This has to be the same wolf that bit me in the forest a couple months ago. Must be why all the prey was around. I needed to get closer to inspect its wounds. Creeping slowly, the wolf's breath became louder. I could see it kicking up dust. The creature didn't move a muscle as I approached. I reached to touch its fur. Even the tips are soft. As gently as I can, I move the fur to expose the wound. The large gash has a scar tissue on the outer edge, but the center is still slowly bleeding. The wolf watches my movements as I back away. I need the shaman's help on this one. Yuchevik makes eye contact as I stand and shakes her head in disbelief. The shaman can't believe it himself. He stays just around the corner trying to catch a glimpse. I walk directly up to the wolf and crouch next to it. A few minutes later, the shaman slowly crawls a few feet over. The wolf lets out a small growl. I talk softly to him, inspect the wound again, and tell the shaman what I see. He does know a few medicines I could try. Various applications depending on what the wolf will allow. The shaman couldn't have left any faster. Once around the corner, I caught him running into his house. It made me chuckle. He comes back a few minutes later with 3 wooden bowls and a large leaf with twine. I placed the bowls next to the wolf. One was a paste, one a liquid, and the other a combination of roots. No idea how to use any of this stuff. I scratched my head as I noticed the wolf looking at the bowls. I take the bowl with liquid and bring it to his face. He sniffs it and sneezes directly into it. It's a no on that one then. I take the roots, and he tries to take a few of them. I give him one to keep him busy. Logic would tell me to use the paste and close the wound if I can. I part his hair again and gingerly place the first pile. He's too occupied to notice, and I continue the application. It only took a minute. The first root was already shredded. I place the rest where he can grab them and head back inside. A small bowl should be enough to refill with water. I help the wolf drink most of the first bowl, fill another, and set it with the roots. Yuchevik couldn't believe what I'd just done, nor could the shaman when we had dinner that night. I was the talk of the village. No one had turned a predator into a pet before. I gave the wolf a whole rabbit when we got back home. Chapter 27. Yuchevik must have been mad about the wolf as she stormed out of the house. The chief walks in after her. I knew why he was here. He walks slowly to the back door and peeks at the glob of fur on the ground. Unusual was a nice word for this situation. I sat with the chief and told him about the dogs of Earth. Cats and lizards and insects too. He listened quietly, sipping on tea. He nods in understanding after the story of my first dog. I tried to get the chief to introduce himself with no luck. I sat next to the wolf as he grumbled. He wouldn't let me touch him anymore either. Only lifts his head to water and food. His wound is healing fast, though. I came out to sit with the wolf every day as he got his strength back. He liked the rabbit, not so keen on much else. Had to take water away so he wouldn't throw up. His personality was defiant, but goofy like a dog. There was an enormous fly buzzing around me today. I swatted the air, helplessly screaming things like, "Ah! Gua! No!" The wolf was having a blast at my expense. His tail hits the ground so hard dust picks up. "Oh, you think that's funny, Mr. Wolf?" I blurt out. "I'm making all these funny noises and going batshit crazy over here while you lay there." I thrust my arms down in defeat. At least the wolf is happy. "I'm gonna name you Guano for that, asshole." I turned away from the thumping tail for a moment. "Guanic doesn't sound too bad, does it?" I ask him. He lifts his head at me as he lets out a slight howl. I watch his paw cover his face as it falls back on the dirt. The front door closes as Guanic's ears perk up. Yuchevik must have come home and promptly slumped into bed as I heard the wood screech across the floor. I walk slowly to the door as the wolf shuffles a bit. I could see her muster up the strength that isn't enough. The next week went by fairly quickly. I would help the warriors in the daytime and then check on Guanic and Yuchevik when I had a moment. Things were slowly getting back to normal around here. Guanic was able to start tossing around on the ground a few days ago. His healing ability was wildly effective. I stopped giving him treatments, and he still let me touch his fur. It was still the only one he'd let near, though. Yuchevik sat with me and the wolf tonight. Guanic's growl was more of a complaint when she arrived. He was getting used to her voice, too. It was tough to say if he would want to leave here in the next week. I watched Guanic gain his strength in the following days. It was a struggle for him just sitting still. In the early hours of the morning, I heard him whimper slightly. His tail began to thump when I came around, and he tolerated Yuchevik. It was like having a husky the size of a horse. Clifford the big white pain in my ass. When he finally began walking, he came right up to me and coughed in my face. Snot and mucus from hair to chin. Almost had a panic attack not being able to breathe. Guanic would venture off for a few hours in the night. Only once did he manage to catch anything. He did start greeting me at the front door, too. Still gave a growl to Yuchevik, though. It took him another week of getting used to her. I accidentally left the door open one day. Guanic let himself in and sat right on the couch. Almost wasn't enough room for his body. Yuchevik told me she jumped at the sight of him. Scolded him, but all he did was wag his tail. It didn't take long for Guanic to become the center of the village. The chief was still apprehensive at best, yet the children couldn't get enough. His fur now lays around the walking paths of the village. It was a quiet day with not much really going on. The warriors and I had just gotten back from a successful hunt. People lay out napping or eating in their huts, comparable to a weekend on Earth. I was taking Guanic out for his morning walk when his ears perked up. The hair stood on end and his head whips around in every direction. I try to lead him away from the village, yet he pulls me towards a fire pit. The tree line is just dark enough it's hard to get a visual. Guanic slips from my grasp and makes a beeline for the trees, hoping to cut off the intruder. His head pops up out of the brush. A soldier from Space Fleet 89 brandishing a gun. I watch in slow motion as he takes aim at my chest. The bullet whips past my left arm and cracks against the brick. The shrapnel slices open my back. He's using hollow point rounds. I duck and run towards the house in front of me. The soldier had to be moved as well. I need a weapon for the villagers to evacuate. Another shot bounces off the house. He hasn't moved much. I round the corner and peek slowly to catch a glimpse. He's aiming right at me. I watch the patch of white fur sink its teeth into arm flesh. The man screams in terror as he's thrown to the ground. Guanic had him finished in seconds.